I have technology, I have these emerging technologies, artificial intelligence, machine learning. I have worked on those. Why can't I use those skills like my dad to impact other people?
I just started with the name. I knew this name it has to be a brand. That's all I knew. I wanted to create a social impact brand. We come from two entirely different education systems.
And when you are able to use that resources, the sky is your hand.
Age doesn't give you any skills that you don't already have. Like if you want to create social good,
Welcome to the first episode of the Think Souls podcast. I am Ryan. In today's podcast, we are excited to have two young founders with us. First, Priyanshu, the founder of Humanitech, and then Laasya, the founder of Unmute. In today's episode, we have dived into their startup journeys and the challenges they have faced, along with how social media platforms like LinkedIn help them to connect with the like-minded people. So, if you like our idea and how we are trying to bring such people to you guys, so make sure to subscribe to the channel. And the whole audio experience of this podcast is available on Spotify and Amazon Prime. So do check it out. So let's get started.
All right, guys. This is Saniya, your host for the evening, and I have with me a co-host Shreya. And today we're about to introduce you guys with two guests, which we have Priyanshu and Laasya. So, Priyanshu, could you please go ahead with introducing yourself?
Hello everyone. This is Priyanshu Patnaik, and I'm a 11th grade student. I'm from Odisha, and I've been into computer science. I call myself a technophile, and I'm really interested in the emerging technologies of computer science. And yeah, I've been working on this. I started into diving into computer science and all since my 7th or 6th grade, and everything self. It was a self-learning journey, and yeah, basically these days I've been into computer science and entrepreneurship as a whole. So yeah, really.
So, Priyanshu, where did you come across this tech stuff? Is it being introduced in your curriculum, or where did you get into this?
It wasn't it actually was me getting into computer science. It's a really different story. It's really interesting story. So the thing was that in my 6th grade, when I was in my sixth grade, there isn't any subject related which introduced you to programming or coding in your school, in my school curriculum. But yeah, I have been since my childhood, I would say I've been into the innovation and just looking at these toys and these stuff and just figuring out how these work, letting see our stuff and then just see. But yeah, there was this story in 6th grade. There was this so and so company which offers kids to teach them coding and programming. And before that, I knew a little bit of HTML and some little bit of through my dad, who was into these stuff. And so that company, they once all of a sudden somewhere my dad got a call. They told that we want to offer your kid a scholarship class, and then if he passes that, we'll give him a scholarship, and then we'll teach him coding and everything. So I did that. I did that scholarship class. I got the scholarship, but even after getting the scholarship, they charged for 80,000 rupees or 1 lakh rupees for just to teach me coding, which is I don't know what, drag and drop something. And that's when I took it as a challenge. If I want to learn programming, I have a deep interest. At least I got pictures from the scholarship class, what exactly these stuff are. And then from there, I took it as a challenge that if I want to learn these and I want to build something out of this, then I will learn it on my own without investing anyone, without constantly nagging my dad or my parents to pay dollars. It all started from YouTube, basic coding, these things. And
Oh, you was very enthusiastic from the beginning, we see. What about you? How would you introduce yourself into this entrepreneurship?
Hey, hi, I'm Laasya Ritik. I live in Houston, but ethnically from India. And I am a social entrepreneur and neuroscience, neurotech enthusiast. I found myself introduced to the world of social entrepreneurship when I was about 14. I found myself in a crisis of mental health crisis, and I found many people around me struggling and silently. And so I realized the enormous barrier that coming from especially living in the U.S., coming from a minority um, background, how much of a taboo there is with mental health and accessing health resources. And I realized that one fits all method of traditional going to counselor therapy does not suit all cultures. And so then I realized I really wanted to create something that I wish existed for myself or people like myself. And so then I set out and kind of went on different networking platforms, especially even like Discord and LinkedIn. And I met my co-founder who also shared that vision. And so then I started Unmute. I did not go in thinking I'd start a company or start a nonprofit or anything like that. I just wanted to create the actual product and the actual resource to help people. And so then that kind of spun from there. And then I realized that there's so much potential in what we can do to actually help people that are suppressed. So my target is to not raise awareness about mental health, but to actually raise solutions. And so from then, I realized I actually had a knack for social entrepreneurship, not just regarding mental health, but I started getting involved with causes that I feel very passionate about advocating for. And so I really got into activism. And all sorts of fields of activism. And then I started slowly realizing that solving the overarching mental health crisis starts from the grassroots issues. And once again, one fits all does not work. So for people in more privileged societies, there was our tech startup develops like different technological services to help them. But I realized that we also have to serve the underprivileged youth and whatever suppression that they're going through. And so then I launched different campaigns to help and empower people to speak out regarding whatever issue they're suffering from, whether it be gender injustice, environmental injustice, etc., and then uplifting them to come out and have the courage to speak up. And while I was doing this, I found that this whole process or this whole field of social entrepreneurship was in fact my therapy and helping me. And so then it became a cycle of me helping people in order to help myself. But yeah, that's kind of how my love for social entrepreneurship and activism grew. And besides that, I am a 12th grade student here in Cyprus.
That balance towards social life and this social life, your campaign and studies, how do you manage those?
Well, usually I always prioritize whatever I feel like I get fulfillment from, because if you don't feel fulfilled, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Everything feels like an obligation, and then you just have regrets. So sometimes academics actually is more fulfilling because it's a sense of there's that agitation or like that fulfillment you get from achieving something that everyone else thinks that you can't get, but achieving that. So part of this past year as a junior in high school, that's like the hardest year in the U.S. education system. It was very difficult to manage both things. But for me, this whole social entrepreneurship thing isn't a task I have to manage. It is like my actual identity, right? So it's just me being myself. So it isn't a task for me. And it brings me happiness. So for me, I just kind of finish the main tasks, main deadlines, and then I spend the rest of the time just living my life. And to me, this is kind of the biggest part of my life, just what I do with Unmute or my other nonprofits. So it doesn't feel like too much of a hassle when I don't see it as burdens.
Hearing you simply makes me so amused. I mean, these two people from 11th grade and 12th grade, I mean, you guys are phenomenal. Like, thinking about something out of the box and beginning your own might have been difficult, right? Like, how from where did this idea of a startup, like, from the very raw mindset, how did you come up with this startup idea, and how did you manage to, unfold yourself in this field and actually get through all these?
Me, like, talking about myself, my like Laasya is like, that's the thing where we both resonate in, where we, it's like the social entrepreneurship side. And with my organization, Humanitech, it actually it backs from my dad, who was like, he completed his management degree, but after that he was in a really good corporate sector, but after that, all of a sudden, like, due to some reasons, he left to to a place in Rajasthan, Udaipur, and he started his own social venture there. And whatever he learned through his degree, the skills he gained from getting an MBA or whatever he did, he used that to like bring impact to people. And looking at me, like when I was at my 10th grade, I like kind of was looking at him like now he is in someone like a huge level. But when I saw like how he used those skills to impact thousands of people, like hundreds of people single handedly, like for 10 years, for 10 decades, he was just using those skills which he learned. I was like, I have those skills. Like any skill I can use. Like I have technology. I have these emerging technologies, artificial intelligence, machine learning. I have worked on those. Why can't I like use those skills like my dad to impact other people? And with that, uh, the idea of Humanitech came. Like actually, Humanitech is like a whole social, like it's a self-sustaining organization where we have a profit side, but we have like impact over profit side. So Humanitech is like simple word humanity and technology, but at the same time, like uh, my idea is not just like it's like in every verse, like technology can be used in any single field, aligning with any SDGs and all. So whether it's healthcare, whether it's agriculture, anything. So with that, like I started the two wings of Humanitech, which is Humanitech Hub and Humanitech Labs. So Humanitech Hub is like completely non-profit. It focuses on hardcore activism, like talking for tech for good. And then actually the main platform that I'm building with Humanitech is like a platform where people like me who really want to use those skills which they have, technology one, they come together and they build something. They work on open source projects. So open source contribution is a really like wild topic right now. Like not from a long since, because most of the big companies, they are all open source built. Whether it's like I don't know, some of like it's a thing like some platforms like GitHub and all, they come up and they do open source collaborations, they build projects on that. So I came up with Humanitech so that we work on ideas, we research on ideas which is like societal problems, and we build projects on that which is like open source things, and like which can actually uh, like give a result to the others. So that's what Humanitech it is. So yeah.
Very nice. Can I know what sort of projects you make? Yeah, what sort of projects can you name any and explain a project that you made on GitHub with lot of people? Like any and complex and yeah.
Yeah, so we were working on this, which is this project called Medica Progenis, right? So, which is like an AI model for early prediction, prognosis using some kind of like deep learning technique. So, we use different deep learning models like RNNs and LSTNs, so that it's actually like early prediction of diseases. So we are working on that project currently. And before that, as personally, I was working on this project called Hasta Lakshana, which is like net sign language detection platform. It's like a deep learning app. So in which like any person who wants to use those Indian sign language, they can just through their hand gestures they can communicate. So that one thing. So we are working on different sectors. We're working on that. So currently it's just the medical project.
That's very thoughtful of you. About you, Laasya, like how would you define as what hardships you came up with, and what was this idea about startups came to your mind, and how did you get influence coming in with this idea of that?
Yeah, so I would say that my nurture. I wouldn't say any of this has to do with nature, but more so nurture. The environment that you grew up in and kind of the experiences I had, some particular experiences I could say would be my brother's diagnosis with autism, completely shaped like my entire life trajectory, and also not just mine, but my parents. And seeing how being suppressed and muted was the common theme that I saw, regardless like which aspect of my life I went through. And then of course with like physically within my brother, right? So not being able to communicate oneself, or just because you physically can't, or because you socially are not accepted to, right? And so when I kept seeing that theme, that kind of influenced like why I made Unmute. Like I just started, I didn't start thinking that I'd make a startup, or like I was saying earlier, a nonprofit or anything. I just started with the name. I knew this name it has to be a brand. That's all I knew. I wanted to create a social impact brand. And then a lot of experiences with many peers like that I met through just Discord, just going in servers and then seeing people struggling with mental health, and then seeing how much I could help them, but they're entirely strangers to me. But I know that behind that username is another person just like myself, and we don't need to introduce ourselves formally, just because that ruins like the magic of anonymity. And so seeing how much people were willing to open up online, they were willing to unmute themselves online when they didn't have to reveal their identity or have any strings tied. That's when people were actually opening up. Even people that I know like in real life would be in the same situation as me and just keep everything stuck in their heads and not speak out. So when I saw how much I could harness that tool of anonymity for good, then I realized that I should make or make whatever idea that's in my mind. A particular suicide actually triggered my uh, thought to like it kind of came out of anger from that, seeing that. And that when I'm asleep, like it was like in that moment, like June of 2021, I believe. That's when I seeing that suicide, and then seeing how the world was reacting to it. Then I was like, no, it has to be right now. I can't wait till I'm old enough or anything like that, because age doesn't give you any skills that you don't already have. Like if you want to create social good, being older doesn't mean that you somehow you don't really need, well, the only thing you get is money, right? But right now I have something more precious, which is time, that I'm probably not going to have 10 years down the line, right? And realizing that, and then realizing how much how much more comforted people were feeling to open up online when they were anonymous. That's kind of what drew me into making a anonymity centered startup. So Unmute, then I realized they'll be more likely to use our technological services and all of that if they never have to reveal themselves. And then I realized like Unmute itself, I wouldn't reveal myself. It wouldn't have anything to do with public like attention or something like that. It's a very like personalized algorithm that Priyanshu is working on now, but it's very customized and like really fits that user itself. And so then kind of idea by idea, I took inspiration from just the different episodes I went through. So I guess it's probably not the most conventional way to deal with any sort of mental health issues, but every time I'm going through something, any issue I faced, I realized, okay, what would I want right now to help me? And I just took note of that. And then one by one, I came up with all the different features of Unmute and the app that we're building now. Each of those features was inspired by a different episode or period of time in my life or in my peers' lives that I've seen. How could it help? Because I'm not trying to make something because it would be too customized to me if I made it all based on my experiences, right? So I saw anyone from my mom's experiences to just people I've met online, seeing what might they need to help, like actually help them on a daily basis. And that's kind of how I came up with all the ideas. And then tying all those ideas together, kind of met the right people, I guess, at the right time. And it kind of guided me into making it all condensed together into a startup.
Amazing. Mind the young history that you guys have had. It was amazing. Like as you said, age would not define what work you're doing. Honestly, it's not about to define. Like hearing you guys talking about this much, I mean, the social welfare, the human welfare. I mean, it's just simply amazing, amazing. So it's life is not easy, right? Like whenever you begin with something, there are hurdles, there are difficulties, there are a lot many problems, more than what you have ever imagined. So I'm sure when you began with the startups, you too had certain difficulties or hurdles, which I say. And so how would you see those hurdles today? And how did you overcome them back in time when you started with something new? There might be problems, there might be issues. And what tricks or what methods did you had to solve them, to tackle them? And how do you see those issues and those problems? Those were too big that time to become so small today, or they have simply vanished right now? Ahead with it, Lasya, and then the answer.
Yeah. So for me, I guess the biggest problem I started with was that right now I have a more developed like public speaking skill set, or um, just professional charisma. Like I've developed how to interact with people, strangers, networking, all of that. I got from a different organization, my involvement with FBLA. But at the time, I didn't have all of this. I was very introverted to the extent that I'd often say this example of how I wouldn't even raise my hand like to ask a question in class. Like I wouldn't even have that kind of minimum courage. So that's kind of how I was starting off, like at the age of like 14, right, when I started on Mute. So the biggest problem of all would be internal battle. Like you are usually your worst enemy or your best supporter. It's all within yourself, right? So the biggest problem is the lack of confidence. Also, like the lack of a support system, because I feel like support systems, like the term is so like overrated, because not everyone can just develop a support system just because you said to go find a support system. Not everyone comes from an environment where people are understanding or encouraging of unconventional ideas or innovative things. Most of, at least my life, I've been told to follow the traditional path and questioned when I went off that path, right? And so you don't really have a support system. So you don't have anyone else telling you like you can do this or anything like that. Because and then you don't have yourself, because you're wondering like, what am I even doing? What am I going into? Because you're exploring a completely like unknown realm. That's kind of what entrepreneurship is, right? And so I guess the biggest problem would be that lack of self confidence. And then the next biggest problem to add on to that was that I was the youngest in my own company, right? So in Unmute, everyone that I was working with was a minimum of 2 years older than me, and also from different parts of the world. So not real. Basically, no one was from the United States, and so no one kind of shared any kind of like background. Like they weren't coming from the same place as I was, and then on top of that, they were also older. So there's that kind of traditional like having like, even though I'm leading the organization, it's hard to demand that respect because of the lack of self-confidence, right? And so kind of everything tying in together, what made it difficult to get people to really like me seriously, take my ideas seriously. The thing is though, people did take my ideas, right? They wanted to hear my ideas, but they didn't care to, when it came time to actually work towards building those ideas or anything like that, they didn't care when it was coming from me. And so I had to rely on kind of my co-founder to do that, kind of be more assertive. And I guess that like whenever I asked for, people to do their job, or when I asked for, people to respond to me, there was just no like kind of mutual respect like I had for them. So the biggest problem was, because I was like 14. So they're all like, what does a 14-year-old know about what she's talking about? Whereas now, like, yes, I do have more confidence and I do have more skills for the actual business world related skills. But even if I didn't, I feel like people would respect me more now just because I'm almost 18. I mean, 17 and a half kind of. And so people would take you more seriously based on age. And I think that's something that should not happen, because the best ideas happen within our childhood. So the more younger people they are, the more free their ideas are, the more unrestricted their ideas are by any social norms, because kids don't really care about social norms or anything like that, right? So regardless of age or background experience or anything like that, people should be respected like equally. And I kind of made that a thing ever since people left, and then it was like kind of a fresh start at one point from Unmute. From then forward, I made it like ensured that people took anyone seriously. Anyone who has an idea has the mic, and people have to listen. Right. So I guess that was one of the second big thing. But all of that ties into also me myself not having the strongest confidence. Looking back now, I think that issue, facing it at that time, was the best thing possible, because it was that I threw myself into FBLA, which is hardcore business professionalism, called Future Business Leaders of America. And it's super competitive. It's all just the next business leaders within my country. And so it's like everyone there is there to do real business. They're there to thrive in like finance, entrepreneurship, and all of that. So putting myself, and most of them are highly extroverted people. So when I threw myself in there as someone who couldn't even raise their hand in class, right? Threw myself in there, went and really put myself under the pressure I needed so that I could sculpt my confidence and sculpt my business skills so that I can take those back to Unmute and then be more I guess you were demanding, a bit more assertive and things like that. So that's kind of where that came in. And if I hadn't had that issue, then I wouldn't have had a need to throw myself so to FBLA. And then FBLA, like within the year that I really worked really hard, which was my 10th grade year in FBLA, by the end of that year, I was on stage giving a speech to 5,000 people, and I won my campaign too. So from there, I climbed up the ladder in FBLA to a national stage now, right? So I wouldn't have had that reason to do all that, and the immense growth I got out of FBLA, I wouldn't have gotten that if I didn't have the reason, which was the issues I faced in the beginning with Unmute. So I'm really grateful that I had the issues that I faced, and I'm glad that I faced them then, because later on down the line, there's no way I would have known this then, but later on down the line, I've started so many other nonprofits, and doing like pretty like more intense like public speaking related work, and I would have not had the skills if I didn't do that.
It's really great. Like speaking in that many number of people, that's a really big skill you have got at this young age. So I'll really appreciate for that. By the way, where did you start from? Like, how did you reach people through social sites or something? Also, this thing you pointed, that overthinking and all stuff, that is common. Everybody. So I wanted to ask that where did you started? Like you approached for a website and like asked by someone or something. What did you do?
Or book after which like organization?
Or like obvious tool that you have a startup. So where did you register, or where did you, as a professional, where did you, or you made a website, or you contacted whom?
The networking that you've had established right now, how did you reach to that networking from the very...
Yeah, so I initially started just through, as funny as it sounds, Discord. It honestly is the best place to do networking with just Gen Z people, like people my age, right? And so started with Discord, and the people I met on Discord all seemed to have established like LinkedIn. I just kept hearing the word like LinkedIn multiple times, and I realized, okay, maybe that's the place you have to be. So then I started LinkedIn, and then LinkedIn is like the most prominent part of my networking career, like how I built the network I have now. It's all through LinkedIn, especially my abroad connections. Like I wouldn't have met Priyanshu if it wasn't through LinkedIn, right? But also more local connections, like or at least domestic within the United States. Any of that really did come from FBLA, because there's so many. That organization has a total of 250K people, and so it's a really large organization. And so that's kind of where I got all my connections that helped me with my other organizations. But as for Unmute, developing that network to help with that startup was all through LinkedIn networking and personal branding, like developing my personal brand.
So Priyanshu,
Really nice.
what were your difficulties and hardships that you had faced in bringing up your Humanitech or all that you talk about?
Yeah.
So would this put up some light on it?
I mean, like, compared to Unmute or Lasya, I have started just a year back with Humanitech. So I start in my 10th grade. But yeah, I mean, the biggest thing, which is like, you have an idea, but you want to build a team. You have this everything in your mind, but you don't have a proper structure which you have to go through, like proper runway through which like stepwise things you have to do. And like that sort of thing really really has like was difficulty in the starting. I wanted this really perfect organization with Humanitech, the perfect organization structure, the perfect everything perfect. But after that, like I saw the different entrepreneurs. Everyone says like they learn their past mistake. Every entrepreneur learns from their first entrepreneur. Like any startup they build, they learn from those mistakes. They build new startup. But I was like, whatever I'm learning from Humanitech, but I'm learning through Humanitech, I'll put that, I'll put it again in Humanitech. So whatever like I'm learning, I will not let this Humanitech just to go down, or I'll not shut it down, but I'll just learn and I'll put it again in Humanitech and build it like again and again, so that it actually builds to something. And that really has helped me to grow my knowledge into entrepreneurship. What an entrepreneur is, like the different terms, like actually getting that business linguistic, which many of the people lack. The entrepreneurs, like I really think they lack those sort of things. They really have those potential. And that was one difficulty, getting that perfect organization structure and everything. The second was the time, compared to American educational system. We don't have any time in our school like to devote for any extracurriculars, or we're not, but we just like even now I go to school from 6 in the morning to I come back home at 6 in the evening. So that's how everything. And from this 12 hours is just study and study. There's no point of time where I'll be like going to something to just do some extracurricular sort of thing. But yeah, that was one hurdle that I lack time, to manage everything. But yeah, I mean, I came up like with that. I prioritized myself, like what I should do at what time I have to do. Some late night, some all nighters I had to put, and those things. And the third problem, which was like while building my team. So while building team, this current in this current situation, what you see in India, everyone wants to go abroad to study, and going to abroad, you really require a huge set of extracurriculars. And Indian students, they I don't know what they want like from those extracurriculars. Because US universities or abroad universities, they really want that you learn from those extracurricular activities. You just explore the horizon, And this thing was like the Indian students that I got, like any of the like people, some of those people I got in my team, they were more interested in just putting like a name, a tag on their LinkedIn, like I work in so and so company as this and this, head of this, or like extracurricular. They really don't want to actually work on what they have been assigned for, or what they really get from doing that thing. But they're more like in just the name, like you're getting a position, and that will be, for education, it will be a really good thing. But that was a really difficult task, to get the right people from my surroundings. Like the Indian students were really passionate to actually do the stuff like me. And yeah, that was one problem. But yeah, I was able to like, the interview process. But so with this, like learning from entrepreneurship, learning through Humanitech and all, they were learning to manage my time and everything. I came up with this idea of my another startup, which is like I'm currently also working with. So that's entrepreneurial school for teenagers. So that's Teenspreneur. That's called Teenspreneur. So where I really want, like it also is like completely impact over profit. I really want like the people who are wherever in the world, like the teenagers out there, those who have that passion in themselves about business and all. I really want that they get that business mindset the business linguistics, like, you know what MVP is, you know what USP is, and you know the different terms and what seed funding and everything. But how do you actually use that? How do you actually use those terms? You gain that linguistic, you gain that business mindset, so that you actually can go out there in the world and explore the entrepreneurial horizon as a teenager. Because learning from my entrepreneurial ventures and everything, I really came up like, the teenagers with me, the people around me, they really lack these things, and I really want to give them that, or I want to build something so that they get those things. So with that, like, I came up with this idea, and I'm working on that too. So these were the, and reflecting on my journey till now, I mean, there is a lot to work, and I learn from those mistakes and I put that again, so that I don't, I keep working on that again and again till I reach that certain position. So that's what I don't really want to shut down my any of those ventures. I really want to learn from those mistakes and then put it again, because I have belief in my ideas or whatever the work I'm doing. I'm getting happiness from the work I'm doing through these ventures. So that's all.
It's very nice. So I was just wanting that, I wanted to ask that, as you told that some people were very interested on putting a label on their LinkedIn and not doing the work on time. How did you tackle that?
I mean, like,
You asked them to
yeah, I had
give you all that work.
yeah, like, that the negative side of me had to come up, like, just talking with them, like, seriously, like, having serious conversations with them. But I really, like, con- counsel them that, this is not what, if you really want, like, US or abroad colleges to really want to see their application to stand out, you really have to work on that, just by just getting into some organization, some random organization, and then, you actually learn from those things. Whatever you're learning, the best education system is like exploring the horizon. So in India, we are just building on our own. We're we as Indian students are, we don't have that kind of thing, like the school is forcing us to do. I mean, the school is asking us to do these extracurricular stuff, but we really have that thing that we want to do these things. So that's why I just, had to get that negative side, had to just throw out some people from the team, but that's how it happened. So, like, yeah. But at the end, I was like, through the interview process only, I built the interview process like that. The questions I asked in the application, and through which only I'm able to get, like, if a person is really interested in doing this stuff or not. So, and I'm really happy, like, I have actually built a team which is really passionate to work on through various iterations among various things. So that's really happy, like, a really good thing for me.
This is recurring problems. Well, I was thinking to put a light on your childhood story of class sixth grade, how you started coding. I was curious to know the tech stack you use, which language you started with again.
Yeah, so I mean, like, in sixth grade, I started with Python. So that was the first language that I started with. And then I started exploring, like, different stacks and learning Python. Actually, I was fortunate enough to actually get a roadmap on YouTube, like how you should actually go on with learning programming or learning starting coding. You should only first, you should know the basic concepts of everything, what a variable is, what constants and everything, what algorithms are, how they work and all. So there was this course of Stanford 101 computer science, computer science. There was this playlist where they explored, like, the basic concepts which are used in every language. So I started with Python because it was the easiest and, like, a really powerful language. So, which I still currently use in AI and ML projects. So that was the first thing. Then I dived into the different fields. I started with web development, like learning web development, building websites with HTML, React, and the stack which I had, like, what I was working on before getting into AI and ML was app development with Flutter. So I was in Flutter app development. So it's like a cross platform tool, which is like we are currently using for building Unmute app. So I was, like, really fortunate, so that I could learn Flutter, and so that was the thing I was working in Flutter, and mostly, like, I was into full stack things. So MongoDB, Flutter, Firebase, these were the stacks I was using to develop apps. But currently, I'm just all into AI and ML, like Python, and there was another difficulty, which was like, AI and ML, these core, they really, at the core, they require a mathematical foundation, the probability, the statistic, linear vectors and algebra, the linear algebras and all. But yeah, that was this thing that when I started learning artificial intelligence and machine learning, I got into like this Khan Academy thing. Khan Academy had a full playlist of the maths, the college level maths, so college algebra and everything. So I learned from that. And that was one thing, because in I have seen my peers who are like friends in US and all, those who are already into this field, they already had in their high school system or in their system, the teachers already like had this thing. They already told that if you want to pursue in this field, these are the things that you want to have. They have this, advanced placement courses, APs and all. So through those AP courses and all, they get those knowledge of the mathematical foundations they actually require to get into fields like these. But for me, it was not like that. Till 10, it was just trigonometry, these things, these stuff, and like passing, getting 95, 96% in boards and all. But I was really like into like learning. If I want to learn these mathematical concepts, I will learn on my own. Like I don't have to actually certify myself to learn these things. I learn. YouTube is everything. And when you are actually, the resource is out there for you, and when you are able to use that resources, the sky is your limit. So that's why, that's the thing.
That's very nice of you, because at this young age, there are very few people who start coding. In fact, people coming in second year, they start. After coming in second year, they start coding. So I wanted to know, there is one thing, hackathons. Have you ever heard of it? And
Yeah. Hackathons, yeah. I mean, I have heard about hackathons, but I haven't participated in any. I mean, I once I did try, but they told like a minimum age should be there to actually participate in a hackathon. So that's why I kind of like, even when I started participating on Kaggle and all, I used to like, dev course and all, I used to, my age, I used to, like, um, I used to tell I was born earlier. I'm 18 plus already, and I used to participate like that. But yeah, I haven't been actually in hackathon till now. I will, because now I have legally okay that I can go and participate in any hackathon.
That's the it. So yeah, we
that's not.
got to know that Priyanshu and Lasya are working together. So how would you introduce yourself being partners in the startup, and what contributions do you have in each other's work? If you guys would throw some light upon it, so would Lasya begin with this? How do you guys meet, and where did it all begin?
Right. So I've like I said, I started 3 years ago, right? So it's been on the running why is for why and then I LinkedIn, like I was talking about earlier. Basically, I needed someone who can revive the tech startup aspect of Unmute, because so far it's been functioning more as the NGO and all the social work we're doing. Like I've been leading that, but I don't necessarily have the technology or any technology background. And so I needed someone who can revive that tech startup, so that we can actually start delivering the services that distinguish Unmute from the rest of the social impact NGOs. The difference is that we're a brand that uses or harnesses emerging technology to solve the mental health crisis, rather than just on the ground workshops. And those only go so far, right? But we want to develop technology, but I needed someone who can really make that soar. And so, I've been following his work with Humanitech for a while, actually. Actually never talked to him, but before then I have been like looking at the things that Humanitech does, and I found that pretty cool. I also, I had someone else also like ready to kind of help with this. His name is Kumar, and he's someone that actually like is close by, like 15 minutes away from me. But I realized the skills that he's lacking, and then I realized that Priyanshu has those skills, and I realized that they'd be a really good like a work partnership to revive the tech startup. And so then I reached out to Priyanshu, and then we had like this. I think the first call we had was pretty long. It was like 5 hours, and we just kind of combining it from one thing to another between Humanitech and Unmute. A lot of things were in common with our ideology, and so that's kind of how we went. And then after that, just he understood some of the ideas that I've been trying to pitch to other people, like Amr and other people I've tried to talk to about some of the really unique ideas that we have here at Unmute. Other people have just responded saying that that's pretty far fetched, or that's pretty hard to do as like with the experience I have right now. But he immediately said that's possible. It just takes time and effort. And so that's when I realized like he's a perfect partner, because he does think that what what I'm saying is possible, or that he can make it possible, right? And so that's kind of where that started. And then from then we've been trying to manage the different, we met, and then immediately it was kind of like AP season for me, and also a lot of conferences I had building up. So it was like a pretty busy season, but skip forward like a few months, because he was also just then starting his school and everything. So a few months later, then we started actually getting to work. And right now we're doing pretty much like a lot right now.
How about you, Priyanshu? What's your take on this?
I was like really that day I like Laasya just messaged me like it was the first time someone actually from then came up. And when I like went through Unmute, I didn't know about Unmute before that, but when she messaged me and then like I went through her website, the Unmute's website, the first thing that struck me is like the actual ideology, which is like you grow through what you go through. So whatever you're going through, you grow through that. And that actually, struck me, because at that time when I was building Humanitech, I was actually, that same thing I was selling. I was learning from my mistakes, and then I was growing through that, building my skills and everything to that. So I actually came up like, this is pretty good idea. And I had, in fact, whatever Alasha was asking you, telling, I really resonated, the impact that it could make in the future. And, the emerging things that are coming up with these technologies and the new advancements, AI agents, these GPTs, LLM models, and which can be, if I can, till now it's just a delusional thing, but with bringing that delusion into reality, which is going to be really like crazy stuff, because that is going to impact a lot of people. And I knew that if I could, use those existing resources, what Lasya was really wanted that feature. The different LLMs that are there, large language models, and well, if I can all combine that, I can just put up something. I can just update over some kind of data, and then just so that it comes up to something which helps people, acts as an AI companion, the way we humans communicate, and the way we understand each other's emotions. And so that's why in AI, in machine learning, there are different like sectors where like each sector has their different research fields. So like sentiment analysis has their own field of research and all. Object detection have their own field of detection. Research and all, eye tracking and everything. So because this thing can combine all those models and bring up to something which is like crazy stuff. So that's why like I really thought like this can be, may not be possible right now, but if I work like we come across people and we work as a whole, as a community, I really think like this thing could be really successful as a whole and impactful for people.
So seems like you two were very like-minded, right? Like from the very beginning, it of you said that you got to know what her ideas were, what was about to fit, and you actually got to know what she wanted to play with. But there might be chances, like working together, there might be some clash of opinions, some disagreements, some points. At some points, you might not stand to a particular topic, to a particular decision. So how do you guys manage that? Like, how do you guys actually tackle those disagreements and all those non uh, uh, when you guys can't settle onto one decision? How do you guys tackle with that?
I mean, till now, I've been fortunate enough that there hasn't been any clashes like that. But in potential future, if there may be, then I don't know. I really like whatever like works out, because at Unmute, I really like the culture she wants to build with Unmute. You know, people come because when a person is going through something, they just want to come to this organization. They want to work, impact others' life, and as themselves, it will be a self therapy for them. So I really like that concept of Unmute. You know, you're not like she. If she's the boss, she will tell anything. It's not like that in Unmute. Everyone is equal. Everybody has their stake in everything. So, but at the end, if anybody has to come, we can just vote out whatever the possible thing. But what Lasya says, but till now there hasn't been any clashes.
That's really nice of both of your understanding. Lasha, you will continue your opinions more.
What do you think?
Okay.
He said that you have to deal with a lot of people in the team, so there might be some sort of like, at some point of time, like I've already heard from him, the environment is too good for people to just come up and simply put up their ideas, but there might be certain points when this disagreements do occur. So anything which you feel like being a handler of so many people, so how do you cope with all those things that come?
So I think the main thing is trust. It's just something that I don't necessarily have in many people, but because of my experiences, but I do have in Priyanshu. And the thing that comes with that is that there's a different type of trust involved in the professional scene. And so it's not about trusting like your feelings, like, or your secrets or something like that. It's about trusting your idea in the hands of someone else who you probably won't be meeting him in person for a few years anyway, unless, he comes here for college. But so you're trusting some like people all over the world. I mean, it's not like just him that's in different countries. I have directors for different branches of Unmute in different countries, and I'm probably never gonna ever meet them in real life. But trusting your idea and trusting people because you recruited that person for a particular reason. Like, you can't just recruit them and then later on be like, okay, but can I trust you? The only reason you recruited them, or the only reason that I would say destiny or any force brought you to like that person in the first place, is because they are qualified and they understood your idea. If it wasn't for that place, we would never have the connection in the first place, right? So whatever trust was there initially, like that, holding on to that, trusting that, I don't know any like coding. I mean, I do, but I don't know anything near the level of what's necessary for Unmute. And so that's why I have him and other people to completely lead the tech startup aspect of this, right? So there's a point in which I should intervene and shouldn't, right? So when I have him, he's recruiting other Flutter developers, front end, back end developers, etc. I should be able to trust that he has the eye to find the right people to join the team. So if he wants to recruit a Flutter developer and I don't personally know this person, I haven't had a conversation with this person, it's okay, because I trust that he's recruiting someone who has the skills necessary for the company. Like, once you delegate a portion of the organization or the work to that person, like trusting them to continue with it. And then obviously if anything were to happen, there's the thing, like, most of the people I work with, at least especially in Unmute, I recruit people that like, as much as business and then like friendship should be separate for Unmute, because like he was saying, I'm creating an environment where people that work in Unmute probably are getting more, hopefully more than even people that we're trying to impact. Like, they are coming to work at Unmute because it's an escape from their rest of their hassle in their life, right? So when you're creating that kind of environment, it's not as much like strictly like we're only here to work and nothing else. I'm not going to help you out with something that's more of a personal problem that's hindering you from working in a meet, right? If he's going through like stressful like season of exams or whatever at school, like I'm not like okay, but where are you working on this? You were responsible for this. Like I'll accommodate the deadlines. I already that's kind of my business style. Very like forgiving and accommodating because people I work with here at New, as much as it has probably backfired before, I try to develop personal friendship and like personal relationships with. So everyone that works in it, I know them and how much I only have them in the team if I know that Unmute can bring them something personally that they're not even thinking about right now. When they're trying to become a part of this, they for the most part, might be looking at the resume enhancement or they're looking for the professional skill enhancement, but they're probably not realizing that I'm looking for people that being a part of this company can actually grow them on an individual level. And so when I have those kinds of people in charge, I have a graphic designer who really clicks with like when I'm saying an idea, just like he did with technology for her, she can immediately draw it out. And it's just as I envisioned and even better. So it doesn't make sense for me to intervene and start a fight with her because she didn't do this perfectly. Like famous like thing that at least from TKS is done is better than perfect. And so getting things like done, getting the impact generated, especially because we are a youth startup and there's so many people who want to speculate and judge, oh wow, look, you're not actually making a real impact. I mean, even my dad, like to be honest, anyone, even people around me will always say like, okay, well, how far is a youth startup going to go? Y'all aren't going to be able to do anything until you have more resources or things like that, right? So when there's already that much pressure on us to succeed, why create more internal pressure for no reason, right? So I try to avoid it as much as possible. And I have a very, I would say, understanding personality. So very accommodating for the most part. And if people are going like, if some of my staff is going through something in their personal life, because we're creating like a friendship type environment, I'll already know that before they have to send me a letter of notice. Like I have none of that kind of busy work is involved in. You kind of just tell me I'm going through this, whatever it might be. And first of all, I'll try to help you because that's kind of my nature. But if it's something that I can't really do anything about or something I might not understand, his educational pressure, I face a lot of educational pressure, but for the most part, there's not much I can say besides listening and saying like, okay, like I don't try to, I don't try to be like, oh, I understand everything and I like talking for them, right? So try to help them, and then if they really want like a break or something, I'm very understanding, and I don't try to make them feel guilty about anything. And so that's kind of how I manage conflicts for the most part. There has been many conflicts in the past years, in first few years of starting it, losing people and I guess like people graduating, leaving, because once they finish that college apps time, they would kind of leave it behind and it wouldn't matter anymore to them, right? And so I lost basically a lot of my staff, and that hindered a lot of the progress of Unmute because there was physically no one except like me and maybe two other people left. And it was a company that had about like 25 people or something. So that kind of loss. And then instead of just sitting there having grudges on people or just being like, oh, okay, all people are like this or something like that, I still had the courage. Like I took time off because I realized I'm lacking in many ways. So before I comment on someone else, like, would I have been able to handle that better, right? This is something I could bring in my other organization into, Neurogenesis. Like just 2 days ago, there was this, we are hosting this lectures. We're teaching children like biosciences and things like that. And then the Zoom and everything wasn't working, was all glitching for my instructor or my person on my team. And instead of just like getting mad or trying to discipline her, I realized like, if that happened to me, if I was in that situation, would I have handled that any better than she did? No, I probably actually would have handled it worse because of just freaking out, right? On the moment. So then, like, what's the point of, conflicting? So I try to avoid, put myself in the other person's shoes as much as possible and avoid potential conflict for the most part. That's why we haven't had any conflicts so far. But even if it does happen, that's kind of how, how I mean.
Really nice for you two guys for as being at this age, you doing a lot. So I want to ask, there are when you step up for something big, something apart from your daily life, apart from your comfort zone, there are people, relatives, friends who try to pull you down, who try to backstab you or something like that. So who try to pass comments and make, how did you tackle that?
Yeah, I have seen those things like I like going to the previous thing like what last year saw like I in Humanitech also have seen that kind of people like even the competitors like not we I don't consider anyone as competitors. We all are working in our space. All have our different ideas. We are working on that. Some people because this ecosystem where people coming in your team they're working for you at the same time they're working for another organization because you have freedom. You're not bounded in any contract or something. It's all volunteer based. Like you come in and you can go at any point. But we at Humanitech have seen that hiring, failures because like there was in the beginning there was this 2 days of just people leaving, just putting on their resignation letters and leaving. But after that, I realized like if someone wants to learn with Humanitech and there's nothing even if they do not have those skills, I will give them those skills. I still remember the HR head we have at Humanitech. She is a psychology student. She's doing her the bachelor's in psychology, and I recruited her as an HR. I remember the first day I sent her 2 playlists from YouTube, which I had seen about human resources. I just every day I just send to different teams the different educational resources about their respective fields and how they should learn from those things. And that learning attitude in itself is so good. But talking about your question, like the backstabbing things and all, I have seen like there was this other organization which totally works on different field, and we work in a different field. But the people we have in each other, they are working for that company organization as well as for me. And they the other organization they were always like, you should leave that thing and seeing that progress, the way we were impacting, or just the basics. The activism we were doing about Humanitech, and they were like, you should leave that and you should join us full time, and we'll give you these things and all. And I was like, what is happening? Everybody is here just to learn stuff and build actually work extra because this is a platform where you can actually learn. And I had seen like those people who left my like Humanitech and they went to this different organizations just because there was in the beginning there was also one person who joined us, and then they learned from everything about what everything should be there, and then they told like at the backstab just me with Humanitech. They started their own organization and the same structure which was like of Humanitech what we were working. He just like copy pasted everything and all. So I was like, and after that, from these mistakes only, I learned like what actually the process should be. And a person with the learning attitude, like he really has that eager attitude to learn. I'm really happy because with Humanitech, if I'm building that structure, somebody's copying that, or at last like even backstabbing, at least like he learned from me, right? He learned from the way I build things and everything like that. And so that was one thing. And I always say to my teammates like, let your work speak louder than your actions. And your work, whatever you are doing, let those speak like whatever you're telling. Like if you're Humanitech, we are telling like we're doing these big things and all, but at the core we are doing nothing. Then there's no point of those. So let the work that you're doing, that should speak way more than what you have been talking about to other people. So that's the one thing that thing. But yeah, I have really seen those backstabs.
Thank you for watching this video all the way through. I hope you guys enjoyed it and found the conversation insightful and fascinating. Feel free to drop your thoughts and the suggestions for our next episode's guest in the comments below. Also, please share this video with your families and friends because you never know how simple conversations might make a difference in someone's life. Until then, goodbye.